Good evening, folks. If you remember my previous episodes, tonight will not be like that. Tonight, there will be no taste test. There will be no competition between liquors. There will be no mixed drinks. Tonight is a night for remembrance. And tonight, I will be remembering along with Jack. Specifically, Jack Daniel's Sinatra Select. And yes, it is that such a night. For actually tomorrow, 25 June, marks the 25th anniversary of the bombing of Khobar Towers. Terrorist act financed primarily by the state of Iran. I was there that night, and every year the memories come flooding back. This year even more so with what happened down in Surfside, Florida, just yesterday or early this morning. Just the photos of the collapsed condo instantly brought those memories back. Now, as I said, it's a special night or remembrance for two different reasons. I'm going to do the primary and most important first, and then I will do the controversial one second. Now, on that Tuesday, 25 June 1996, in the evening, I was sleeping. I was prepared to work to change of command the next day, Wednesday, and then rotate out on Thursday. I lived in a 4-story SP dorm just behind the targeted building. And I had my own room. I had my own TV, refrigerator, and most importantly, my own bathroom. I was the villa chief. But another incoming tech sergeant wanted my room and wanted me to move out immediately instead of waiting 2 days. I refused, but 10 hours before the bombing, I was in my room. Knock came on the door, and it was a senior airman that I was due to rotate out with. He smiled at me and he said, "You're moving to the other dorm." He grabbed my stuff, made sure I had everything, threw it down the stairs, elevator wasn't working, loaded it up and moved me over further away from the targeted building. Well, hey, I was getting moved, I didn't have to do anything. Yeah, why not? So, like I said, I was in bed, I was sleeping. Now, 10 hours later, lives were changed. I was rocked out of my new bed and into action. As I may have said last year, later during the day, Wednesday, after everything settled down, I went up into my old villa, my old room, just to check it out. But there was something that always seemed to be missing, something that always escaped me, something I shut away. And that was something I did not realize or remember until about 2 years ago. When I went up into that room that day, I was standing at my bed where I would have been sleeping. And there was an AC unit sitting, laying on my pillow. And there was a pretty nice sized shard of glass deeply embedded into the middle of my mattress. And it was at that point 2 years ago I realized how lucky I was, how fortunate I was to be here. That shard of glass was not a small piece. Since then, I've been trying to find that troop that moved me. Thanks, there is no thanks I can give them. I owe my life. All I remember is a senior airman out of Maxwell Air Force Base, and he was originally from Connecticut. Now, I did hook up with another senior airman from Maxwell who was there at the time, law enforcement troop. But again, he could not remember the gentleman's name. So, if you're watching, if you get to see this, I owe you, big time. So for my first toast, to you who were out there that night, Whether you remember this day at one of the ceremonies, at Patrick, Eglin, Maxwell, or on your own, which it's okay to do. Here is to you. Stay strong, rely on others, most importantly, rely on yourself. You do have the strength. Now, the second toast, I said could be controversial. The second reason I will remember 25 June is personal. It's going to be unpopular with a lot of people, especially in the security forces career field. People who I call professional beaus or the yes men. But that date marked the beginning of the end of the security police career field. This was my chosen field. This is what I entered the Air Force to do. Security police encompassed law enforcement specialists, security specialists, and combat arms. Guys who ran around with the red hats on. And then because of this, it was replaced with security forces, which is pretty much the jack of all trades, master of none mentality. Even the professional development guide people use for promotion testing, not sure if it's still called that, when it mentions Khobar Towers, it acknowledges that the bombing was the catalyst for the switch from security police to security forces. Though many of us there that night, both law enforcement and security, still wonder why. You know, it's almost like the Air Force and Secretary of the Air Force at that time made our career field out to be the scapegoats. But we see it today. Maybe the Air Force was avant-garde. We see it today in Portland, Oregon, Seattle, Washington, Minneapolis, where the elected leaders, mayors, councilmen, pretty much do their best to not tear down, but to weaken policing and law enforcement. And they have no clue what they're doing. And in my opinion, that's what the Secretary of the Air Force and the Air Force did because of that night. So, to all my security policemen out there, law enforcement, security, combat arms, especially those at Khobar, we did our jobs. We did not fail. We saved more lives than we may ever know or others will acknowledge. And we will be ever security police. Good evening.